Hey guys, so today's video is a request as usual from Elaine Mentz. Thank you so much, Elaine, for the request. This one, I'm sorry if I'm talking kind of quiet, my baby's asleep. This one was really interesting and kind of scared the crap out of me for a second, and I'll get into why in a minute. It's really close to home for me. I actually work in Green Hills, or worked in Green Hills before I worked at home, and obviously live in Nashville, and this is the story about the Green Hills rapist. Spooky stuff. I'm sorry, I don't mean to make a joke about it, but you know, it's nearby, so I have to make humor out of it to not like freak myself out. So the most recent news that I could find out about this was news articles in 2014 and basically old newspaper clippings from the 80s. Now, old police reports are really hard to come by because they get shredded after so many years most of the time, unless it's like a high profile case. So that was where I gathered most of this evidence, plus a search of the current Tennessee inmate, or Tennessee, what was it called? Tennessee Department of Corrections search, whatever. So that was where I got most of the information for this case. So in, let's see, 2014 was the last publicized parole hearing for John Peltier Jr., who is known as the Green Hills Rapist. Excuse me. He was 55 years old in 2014, which would make him, what, 61 now? And he has been in prison since 1989 for stalking and raping 8 women in their Nashville homes. He would break in, and this happened between 1987, or excuse me, it was 1980. Where's my years at? Good note taking, Haley. 1985 to 1987. He would break into these women's homes after stalking them, bind and gag them and rape them repeatedly in some cases, and hold some of them hostage for hours as he ate their food, drank, and smoked cigarettes between attacks. In 2008 was when he was first up for parole, and that brought 6 of his 8 victims together, united against him getting released ever. Now, there's not much information, like I said, because of the police reports being so old, on the actual attacks, and the names of the victims, except for one, are not widely known. That is most likely due to their age at the time. They were pretty young, but I don't have confirmation that they were under 18 or anything like that. But them being victims of such a heinous crime, it's not common for them to just have their names thrown out to the public, basically, which is good. They shouldn't have to be, you know, harassed about it in public or ask questions about it when someone hears their name type deal. Now, the Tennessee Board of Parole in 2008 very quickly and very easily turned him down, particularly since at that parole hearing, Peltier himself said that he didn't deserve to be free. Now, every 6 years, as long as he is in prison, some of the victims, some of the 8 victims that he was charged for, you know, raping and stalking and all that, will have to come together again for his parole hearings to basically fight against him being released. Excuse me. They will have to go through recounting the stories of what happened to them, of having a gun to their head while they were attacked, and the effect that it had on the Green Hills community at the time of him being loose. Now, Green Hills is a very, I don't know how else to word it. It's a rich part of town. It's a fancy part of Nashville. If you live in Green Hills, you're kind of like, if people find out you live in Green Hills, they're kind of like, oh, what do you do for a living? You know, because you clearly probably make money. It's more expensive, or has been more expensive in the past than even living directly in Nashville. Now, that's probably changing now because we've got a lot of little high rises in Nashville, and living downtown Nashville is now like the place to be. So that's gotten pretty pricey. But other than that, Green Hills families are like been there forever, old money type families. So for something like this to be happening in such a, I don't even know how to word it, like upstanding part of town is really scary. I mean, that would have been a part of town where people didn't bother locking their doors and stuff like that. They didn't have a high crime rate. Now, let's see, where was I? I'm sorry, I'm fighting a migraine, so I'm a little scatterbrained today. Getting over a migraine, it's going away, thank God. Now, the one victim whose name has been public is a woman by the name of Kathleen Storms. She is quoted to have said that he, Peltier, woke me up, quote, woke me up in the middle of the night and I had a gun in my face. Excuse me, he woke me up and I had a gun in my face in the middle of the night. It took me about 6 months to go to my house. To spend the night, it took me almost a year. End quote. Obviously, this is something that will haunt these women for the rest of their lives, and haunt the town for a long time, which is really sad. Now, like I said, the public is not normally aware of the names of victims of sex crimes. However, Kathleen Stornes has been vocal about her experiences and speaks for victims as a board member with Tennessee Voices for Victims. She said that Peltier robbed her of any sense of safety in the community at the time. So she is very vocal for victims of sex crimes around Tennessee, or has been very vocal. Now, Peltier's spree lasted from 1985 until he was caught in 1987. He was actually caught by an officer in Murfreesboro, which is about, it's on the other side of Nashville, basically. Green Hills is probably 10-15 minutes away from downtown. Murfreesboro is probably like 20 minutes in the opposite direction. The officer pulled him over in September of 1987, suspecting that he was a drunk driver. And inside of the car, the officer found burglary tools, pornography, sexual devices, audio recordings of sex, and women's underwear, which he had stuffed down his pants. Excuse me. Now, all of this sort of led to suspicion that he could have committed some sort of crime. Therefore, he was detained and questioned. He ended up pleading guilty and was sentenced to 5 life sentences with the possibility of parole about 20 years later. He was also, when I searched his current status with the Tennessee Department of Corrections, he was also charged with, I believe it was burglary, and that was like a 10-month charge or something like that. The parole cycle, as I stated, will repeat every 6 years until he is released or dies. Starnes is quoted again to have said, "I'm not really happy that I have to do this every 6 years, but you've got to do what you've got to do. If he gets out and I didn't show up and something happens, I will never forgive myself." The Tennessee Board of Parole voted to decline parole to Peltier in 2014 for 6 more years, citing the seriousness of his offenses and his high risk to the community. His case, this is what scared me. This is what freaked me out. His case, according to this article in 2014, will next be heard in April of 2020. And obviously it's July of 2020, so I'm like, holy shit, did he get out? What happened? Started doing a deep dive search of him, couldn't find any information at first. There was no sort of coverage of another parole hearing, obviously because we're in the middle of a quarantine that started in March. So, and everything really shut down like in April. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of like still parole hearings and stuff going on via like I don't even know what you call that, telecommunication, some type of like Skype meeting and stuff. So, like I said, I couldn't find any information on a parole hearing. However, when I did a deeper search, excuse me, I'm trying not to cough too loud to wake up the baby, so I'm just going to keep doing these annoying small coughs. When I did a deeper search of his current status, he is still in prison and his next parole hearing is scheduled for April of 2024. Now, again, because I couldn't find information on a 2020 hearing, I don't know if he was just denied parole again or if they ended up postponing it because of the current health pandemic that's going on. But my guess is they wouldn't have pushed it out 6 years because of this. So my guess is he got denied parole again. Now, sadly, Kathleen Stornes was not at this parole hearing because she actually passed away in 2017 after a 2-year battle with cancer, and she was 68 years old at the time of her death. So that's really heartbreaking, but at least she didn't have to go through another parole hearing of telling such a horrible story and having to relive it. That's the only silver lining I can see there. But it is really heartbreaking. She lived her life really being an advocate for victims of sexual crimes throughout Tennessee, and would even go to jails, it stated, and speak with male inmates who committed these crimes and sort of, I guess, learn what they were thinking and try and teach them to learn what they did was a terrible thing and to, you know, find some sort of empathy for their victims. So she was a very brave woman to have done all that. Now, in 2014, during the last publicized parole hearing, Peltier did want to be released at that time. Like I said, in 2008, he said that he didn't deserve to be free, but in 2014, he basically blamed alcohol, drugs, and pornography for his crimes and said that God had changed him. So at this time, it seems like he does want to be released, but luckily he was not this year, so it'll be 2024 before he's up for parole again, which is actually a 4-year, not a 6-year gap. So again, I don't know why it's been pushed to 2024, if he was denied or if it's because of the pandemic, but we'll see what happens there. I'm sorry that's all the information I have on this. Like I said, it's kind of hard to find on this case, but I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, please hit the like button below. If you have any suggestions for videos, true crime or otherwise, please leave those in the comments below. And if you'd like to see more videos, you can hit the subscribe button as I upload new videos every Wednesday. And other than that, I will see you guys next week. Bye.